It all started at the gates of the Tungsten shelter. Helen and little Rowan were soaked to the bone, begging for a place to crash. The owner, this greedy bastard, cut them off. We're full. But Helen knew how the game was played. One silver coin and his whole personality did a 180 on the spot. Suddenly, there was plenty of room. Once they were alone, Helen broke down. When Rowan asked about his parents, she gave him a lie to protect him, promising he'd see them soon. The kid believed every word and was out cold within minutes. And then, her body, which had been running purely on sheer willpower, finally let go. A horrible, bloody cough. A final whispered goodbye. Before morning even showed up, Helen was gone. Rowan woke up in hell. Blood-soaked sheets and a lifeless Helen. The shelter owner couldn't care less about a dead woman. He was just annoyed by the mess. But his mistress noticed Rowan's resemblance to a girl named Pauline. The verdict was instant. Congratulations. He's your responsibility now. The shelter was actually a ruthless machine designed to squeeze money out of desperate people. The next 5 years were a crash course in survival. Beggars had to pay fees just for the privilege of sleeping on the floor. Pauline became a mother to Rowan. She shielded him from the ugliness of the streets. She gave him a lesson he'd carry. You're only truly alone if your heart feels empty. Hold on to the people you love. 5 years flew by. Pauline was offered a real job as a maid in a noble house, a chance at an actual future. Rowan, choking back tears, let her go. That same night, alone in the woods, he tried doing exactly what she told him. He closed his eyes, put his hand over his heart, and the world just cracked open. Mena started swirling around him. He could see the invisible. But most importantly, he felt them. Everyone he ever loved. They hadn't left. After Pauline left, Rowan went back to begging solo. The director bumped him up to Zone 1 Prime Real Estate. That's where he met Blake. Blake ran the zone, but unlike the others, he was genuinely kind. It was Blake who finally put a name to the glowing swirls Rowan had been seeing. Mana, life in Zone 1, felt fine until Rowan spotted them. Men with unnaturally clean mana, tracking his every move. When the ambush started, Blake acted instantly. Scooping Rowan up, he launched across the rooftops. Rowan was in absolute awe. For the first time, he was seeing exactly how mana flows through a master's body. Back in the safety of the shelter, Rowan decided to test if he actually understood what he saw. Deep breath. Deep breath. He pulled mana from the air into his body, pushing through the resistance. He forced it to condense. It worked. The piece didn't last. Rowan was told to pack his bags. He was moving to the main building. By pushing mana into his ears, he eavesdropped. Turns out, the director didn't move him for his talent, but for his face. Perfect bait for rich patrons. Rowan connected the dots. The men chasing him were Union. Rowan was handed off to Amia, beautiful but ice-cold woman. Finding out he couldn't read, she just sighed. Her answer was cynical. To perform for rich nobles. Essentially, Rowan had just been moved to a high-end slave market. Rowan finally got something of his own, a closet. And a crew? Theo, Lily, Noah, Hadenda, Laberi kids. Theo laid down the rules. No more street begging, just organizing books and helping guests. That night, Rowan couldn't sleep. He realized the library was a gold mine. The knowledge to make him strong was sitting right there. He remembered Pauline, who always said books were the best thing you could give a kid. Now, he had the keys to the kingdom. Rowan started training right on the job. Carrying heavy books? Easy. Just use mana to make them lighter. He didn't need to sit still anymore. He was circulating mana while moving. A massive glow up. But more importantly, he found a history book about the Union. They were peacekeepers. They good goose. The puzzle didn't fit. If the Union was good, why did Blake run like his life depended on it? The answer was obvious. The shelter was hiding something so dark that the Union was a lethal threat to them. Event day was approaching. The vice director read off the list. Theo, Lily, Noah. She stopped at Rowan. Everyone knew he had barely finished reading fairy tale leaves, but one look at his face decided it. Too pretty to hide. She made him an observer to soak in the atmosphere. The rejects whispered that he only got it because of his looks, but Rowan knew his looks were just another tool in his arsenal. The day of the event, Rowan was looking sharp. The VIPs rolled in. Suddenly, a woman named Caroline stopped dead in her tracks. She remembered him, begging in the cold intersection last winter. She had been mesmerized by him, even then. Herein he could now read. She threw a fit, demanding he perform immediately. The vice director, seeing the guests getting hyped, caved. She pointed Rowan to the podium. It was his time to shine. The room went dead silent. Rowan opened his mouth, and what came out wasn't just reading. It was magic. By channeling mana into his voice, he made his tone impossibly smooth, warm, and hypnotic. He wasn't just speaking words. He was beaming emotion directly into their hearts. When he finished, the room absolutely exploded. Women were crying, demanding more. Rowan humbly thanked the vice director, playing the perfect, grateful orphan. In one day, he became the shelter's biggest cash cow. Rowan's success went to the administration's heads, but he wasn't relaxing. While hunting for books on mana combat, Blake sneaked up on him. His mentor had come to give him props. The conversation shifted to the Union. Blake confirmed they were pressing hard. Rowan genuinely told him to stay safe. On his way out, Blake smirked and pointed at the book Rowan had grabbed, Life's Pleasures. Blake thought the kid was just reading dirty books. He was dead wrong. Left alone, Rowan started calculating. He felt the power. But how did he actually stack up against a master like Blake? He needed a benchmark. Deep breath. He flooded his body with mana, feeling the current surge into his muscles. He gripped the book Blake had pointed out. With a sudden surge of raw, magical strength, he ripped the thick spine completely in half. He looked down at the pieces. Well, that answers that question. He was ready. Rowan became a victim of his own success. The noble women were absolutely feral for him. The vice director put him on double shifts. Any normal kid would have complained. But Rowan saw an opening. He agreed without hesitation, asking for short breaks to rest his voice. The vice director, desperate, agreed instantly. The trap was set, but she had no idea who was actually being played. During his breaks in the garden, Rowan kept running his experiments. He tried to condense his internal mana, but he kept hitting a wall. Then it hit him. What if he stopped trying to store it and just manipulated the ambient mana, already floating in the air? He focused his will on a single fallen leaf. For a second, nothing. And then, the leaf slowly lifted off the ground. This kid had just accidentally invented telekinesis. Things escalated fast. In the garden, Rowan spotted the enforcer who had brought him to the main building. The man was badly injured, his mana flickering like a dying candle. He caught one whispered word: Union. Suddenly, afternoon sessions were cancelled. Amy, her warm vibe completely gone, coldly ordered Rowan to follow her. She took him to the Anaxa separate, windowless building. The second he walked in, his guts screamed. The mana here was vile. He was led into a room that looked less like a shelter and exactly like a ritual altar. In the center of the room was a massive pit, radiating concentrated dark mana. They told Rowan to read. As soon as he started, he felt that the pit wasn't feeding him. He was feeding the pit. His life force was being drained with every sentence, but he couldn't stop. So he adapted. He pulled in external ambient mana, redirecting the flow to shield himself from the drain. He bought them time, but then the shelter staff burst into the room in a blind panic. The Union had breached the walls. Instead of fighting, the staff threw themselves straight into the dark pit. Rowan stared down. What the hell were they feeding? Rowan jumped down the pit, and his world shattered. It was a literal slaughterhouse. Real people were being sacrificed to feed a grotesque, cursed tree. And right there, among the bodies, was Polly. Then, Blake stormed in. The warm, protective mentor was furious that the ritual had failed. He pulled his sword clean out of Pauline's lifeless body. Rowan froze. He remembered Blake telling him his sword was busy elsewhere. The betrayal hit him like a freight train. Blake actually had the nerve to give a villain monologue, offering Rowan a spot in his deranged dark magic cult. Rowan, his eyes completely dead, asked if Blake had built the tree. Blake smugly replied he was just an observer. Rowan snapped. He went full mob psycho. A terrifying, dense aura erupted from this 10-year-old boy. Before Blake could even finish his sentence, Rowan glitched forward, obliterating the cultist next to him. But the fight suddenly stopped. Rowan looked at the cursed tree, filled with the souls of the victims, and completely broke down. He slammed his hands against the bark, pushing his mana inside, diving into the trapped memories. He saw the horror of the victims, and then, inexplicably, he saw an older version of himself staring right back. The vision violently cut off. But something shifted. He remembered Pauline's words. The grief didn't break him. It forget. He was locked in. Blake pressed his sword to Rowan's throat, smugly asking if the kid wanted revenge for Polly. The man who treated Rowan like a little brother swung to kill him, but Rowan caught the blade with 2 fingers. using external mana control so precise it made Blake's brain short-circuit. Rowan snapped the steel in half. "You won't live to see tomorrow," he whispered. Rowan executed the man who had betrayed him. Rowan's senses flared. Company was coming. The Union's Faith Division swarmed the room, led by Vice-Captain Oscar. Oscar took one look at the carnage and asked if the cult had taught the boy telekinesis. Rowan deadpanned. "No, I figured it out myself." Oscar nearly choked. During the debrief in the library, Oscar was struggling to process reality. This 10-year-old had zero formal training, yet he had executed to master swordsman. And he didn't even look tired. Oscar explained the grim reality. The tree harvested lives into a mana fruit. Rowan connected the dots. Those trees were made of victims. Disgusted, Rowan asked to join the Faith Division. Oscar agreed to give him a shot. As Rowan walked out, he spotted a silver coin on the dead vice director's body. He pocketed it without breaking stride. Outside, Oscar handed Rowan over to Sienna Dark Elf, illy radiating intense blue mana. She escorted him to the Union headquarters. It was a massive city filled with the strongest warriors on the continent. They were intercepted by Director Lazarus. Lazarus pulled Rowan into a private room and gently took his hand. Instantly, Rowan felt it. Lazarus was using the exact same mana control Rowan had invented, but on a godlike level. For the first time in his life, Rowan wasn't scared. He was absolutely hyped. Rowan's new home was the Union Academy, a training ground for the next generation of elites. Professor Daphne handed him the course catalog. Rowan just checked every single box on the page. Daphne's jaw hit the floor. She tried to explain that this workload would literally kill a normal student. Realizing she was dealing with a polite psychopath, she just sighed and walked him to his first class. Rowan's introduction to the class was polite and wholesome. But when Professor Daphne asked him to read aloud, he froze. It was the exact same book Amy had used to test him at the shelter. He pushed down the trauma, using mana for a hypnotic reading. Immediately, he caught the attention of Sophie Pal. She was baffled as to why this magical prodigy signed up for advanced swordsmanship. The students had to sprint to the training grounds using mana boost. Rowan casually lapped the entire class, treating it like a game. Instructor Diego paired him with Sophie. Relying on reflexes and mana reading, Rowan matched her perfectly, tying the matches 2-2. The class dragged themselves to a magic ledger with legendary Dean Arthur, who broke down the complex formula for a basic fire arrow. Rowan immediately deduced the theory behind the magic circles, but back in his dorm, he realized his body couldn't store enough mana. He decided to reinvent magic, tweaking formulas to suit his body. He cast the spell perfectly, but the backlash knocked him out cold. His new roommate, Lucas, walked in to find him face down, wondering what kind of lunatic he was rooming with. Lucas was a real one, even paying for Rowan's mysterious, unhatchable magical egg at the local magic shop. Determined to prove a point, Rowan hijacked a lector. He manifested a massive, stable fireball without a single incantation. 5 years flew by. Rowan was now a senior, and the academy faculty was having a meltdown over his insane progress. Dean Arthur admitted he had nothing left to teach. Rowan was busy reverse engineering high-tier spells for fun. On graduation day, Rowan downed a rare red elixir. Instantly, his senses exploded into absolute high-definition mana vision. With his new vision, he cracked the egg seal. Out popped a grumpy, black emo bird with yellow hair. He named it Owl. At the ceremony, Rowan grabbed the mic and shattered assumptions, telling the crowd about his past as a beggar. He swore his life to protecting the innocent. By the time he finished, there wasn't a dry eye in the house. At the Union entrance exam, a massive combat golem charged him. Rowan didn't even draw a weapon. He analyzed the golem's mana structure and triggered itself. The beast melted into dust before it even reached him. On induction day, Rowan received his custom weapon, 12 perfectly forged, monoconductive floating blades. Reporting to the Creed division, Rowan was thrown straight into the ring against the massive Vice-Captain Oscar. Rowan manipulated friction and gravity, freezing the massive warrior in midair, but Oscar shattered the restraints with a crimson aura. Rowan went full offensive, point-blanking Oscar with a hyper-condensed fireball. The entire division erupted in laughter and applause.